You also look in the angle of, being able to be mild when it comes to punishing children.
Are we going to say that parents have failed in their, to fulfill their duties as role models?
I think it's
to their children.
It's in both ways, actually. In Nigeria, it's obvious that parents have actually failed in their responsibilities in some areas. And then two, you look at the education system. How bad is it as we speak?
Gradually.
Yes, it's becoming a problem. Look at the results released by JAMB. Look at WAEC results in recent times. If you compare to what we used to have, then you realize the fact that when we talk about education in Nigeria, it has fallen so much. And then, what capacity do these children have? How well have they been actually been trained from home to actually be able to grab whatever it is they are being taught in school? I was talking to someone a few days ago that there were times where there are different names for different bushes in schools. There were Igbo Brazil, Igbo Argentina back then, and you realize the fact that they are actually school children who would leave classrooms to actually be in a bush doing absolutely nothing. And then you begin to wonder, when they get home, what exactly do their parents do? Do they actually get to ask questions about what they studied in school? How well have you been able to understand what your teacher taught you? So it's a failed situation in Nigeria, but the blame should not only go to the teachers, should not only go to the parents, but it should be shared equally. As a parent, if your child has gone to school for a whole week, even if you don't have the time to do it on a daily basis, for a whole week, you should be able to do a recap of what exactly were you taught over time. Check notebooks. Are you even getting to write your notebooks? Is your notebook complete?
Don't do that.
Some parents, they will declare open day in some schools and you realize some parents will not be there.
They will tell them, just go.
Just go.
They are too busy.
I mean, it's alarming. If you want to blame the teachers for actually doing too much, then parents should also
There's a way
share.
you can do that, and not you sending talks to the vice principal to just checkmate what he or she has done. And this called for investigation, thorough one, accountability and support for the victim as well. And away from that, we head straight to another one.
A
university student was dismissed from the school. Due to one thing. So,
well, when we talk about one thing, you realize the fact that it still boils down to what we've been discussing. Parenting. What will happen to a child whose parents could afford a private university to actually step out of school only to go in search of
he wants to become rich all of a sudden.
And that's the problem we have with young children these days, because you realize a child of less than 18 will just sit down and say, I should just say like 10 billion now, I'll buy a Mercedes Benz. I mean, what have you done to deserve 10 billion naira?
That's 10 billion naira.
So it's the mentality for me. How well are these children being trained? Do parents actually talk about this in their presence? And if they don't do that, what kind of friends do they keep? These are questions parents should be asking.
Because there are some parents, they actually try.
They do.
Or maybe it's the kind of friends or the children mix up
I could remember there were days where your parents would just see a friend of yours and they will say, no, you cannot be with that guy. I don't want to see you with that guy again. I don't want to see with that girl again. There's a reason they do that then. Just by seeing, a child back then, they will tell you the kind of person you can actually play with.
He or she is.
And we used to have parents who would not allow their children to go out. It's not because they don't have, what it takes to actually let them go, but they realize the fact that they don't have the time to actually be there that much. So instead of you going out there and then you begin to, get the bad energy, get copy characters that really should not be there, you realize the fact that, it's better for you to stay indoor than you mixing out there.
Well,
and then
in some cases, parents do support the child, like, okay, Yoruba will say, so now, you should be able to ask your child or your children, where did you get this from?
Imagine a primary 4 child coming home with 5, 6, 7 pens to your house, and you are not asking, you only bought him one. And then came back home with 5 or 6. Where did you get all this from? I've seen a situation where a parent came to school with a classmate of mine and said, he came home yesterday and brought this. And I know I did not buy this for him. So where did he get it from? And in the class, the name on the book was actually read out, and then the owner came outside and said, it's mine. I've been looking up for it since yesterday. So it's a deterrent for such child that you don't repeat that again. At least you know that your parents will come and disgrace you in school if you continue that. So that's for me the way to go. If parents are taking the blame, the school teachers will also take, and of course the education system in Nigeria also has, it's not about mathematics, English. What moral values are you instilling in these school children?
Exactly. Wow.
Right away from there this morning, we head straight to our news desk. Of course, you can be a part of the conversation by dropping your comment on our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. Do well to actually subscribe to that channel. And of course, you can link up with us on all other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It is at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, formerly Twitter, it is at Dominion Cast. You can also watch us live on our website, www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. We head straight on a short break, and when we return, let's go straight to our news desk.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Pat Aito. President Bola Tinubu has reiterated his administration's commitment to ensuring the comprehensive transformation of the Nigeria Police Force and other security agencies. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, mentioned this on behalf of the President at the second edition of the Nigeria Police Award and Commendation Ceremony held in Abuja. Tinubu also assured all that the federal government will continue to invest in tools, training and welfare initiatives to boost police professionalism and morale. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar, has called for a greater collaboration among West African nations to enhance economic growth and regional integration. Speaking at a private sector roundtable, Tuggar emphasized the importance of harnessing the region's collective market strength and demographic asset. The event was part of the lead-up to the West African Economic Summit scheduled to take place in Abuja from the 20th to 21st of June. Tuggar highlighted Nigeria's prominent economic role within the sub-region, but noted that The true progress depends on strategic partnerships among member states. The National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, has clarified that all 8 verification service platforms remain fully functional and accessible to all authorized partners, including security agencies. In a statement released, the Commission firmly denied claims that it had denied the Police Service Commission (PSC) access to its verification server. Dr. Kayode Adegoke, NIMC Head of Corporate Communications, described the purported inability of the Police Service Commission to access the NIMC verification server as misleading and inaccurate. He suggested that any challenges faced by the PSC may be due to internal issues within the Commission itself, not from NIMC's end. A road accident occurred in Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State, involving a petrol tanker and a truck. It was learned that the incident occurred at Michael Kwale Government Reserved Area along Oyo-Ibadan Expressway. It was gathered that the tanker carrying 45 liters of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, lost control and collided with another truck while on motion and caught fire. A Special Advisor to Governor on Fire Service Reform, Honorable Maruf Adebayo Akewande, confirmed the incident swiftly swung into action by applying necessary chemicals and observing all precautionary measures to avoid explosion that might lead to fire disaster. As part of proactive measures to ensure the safety of lives and property during the upcoming Eid-el-Kabir celebration, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense School NSCDC Oyo State Command has deployed 2,750 personnel across the state to provide effective security coverage and ensure heat-free celebrations. The state commandant, Commandant Augustine Padunu, discussed this in a statement, noting that the personnel will be stationed at strategic locations, including praying grounds, recreation centers, motor parks, major road intersections, and other public spaces where large gatherings are expected. He further directed all commanders and divisional officers to intensify surveillance and deploy massively to protect critical national assets and infrastructure during the festive period. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps NSCDC Oyo State Command has emphasized the core unwavering commitment to protect some farmlands, mediating dispute and ensuring peaceful coexistence between farmers and herders in Oyo State. The State Commandant of NSCDC Oyo State Command, Commandant Augustine Padunu, mentioned this at its first ever Agriculture Stakeholders Seminar at the House of Chief State Secretariat, Agodi Ibadan, also disclosing that the agro rangers have successfully intervened in several potential flashpoints and are working tirelessly to build trust between stakeholders. Among the dignitaries present were the Honorable Commissioner for Agriculture, Barrister Olasukomi Olaleye, NSCDC management staff and personnel, officials of the Oyo State Ministry of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Rural Development, leaders of Farmers and Herders Association, community heads, and other interest groups. Men of the 32 Artillery Brigade of the Nigerian Army have arrested 2 persons over alleged kidnapping activity in Akuno Akoko, in Akoko Northeast local government area of Ondo State. This is contained in a statement issued by the Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, Major Njoka Rabo. According to the statement, the suspected kidnapper was arrested while making a move to collect ransom from the family of the 10-year-old boy who had earlier been adopted by the hoodlums, while the other suspect was caught giving information to the bandits. The Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC, has pledged to promptly settle all legitimate allowances owed to the staff following the threat from the workers to shut down operations. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the AEDC Chijioke Okonokoye made the pledge in response to the notice of industrial action served his office by the AEDC Union. The union had threatened to resume suspended action over non-remittance of pension deduction for 16 months, non-implementation of the national minimum wage, non-promotion and the continuous stagnation of members of staff for over 10 years, non-confirmation of staff and acting appointment, non-regularization and proper placement of appointments. The Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) has announced additional train services for the Lagos-Ibadan route and a special festive operation on the Warri-Itakpe corridor as part of effort to accommodate increased passenger traffic during the Eid-el-Kabir celebrations. According to the NRC, an extra trip has been added to the Lagos-Ibadan train service. The move is aimed at easing the pressure on travelers commuting between the two cities during the Muslim holiday. Meanwhile, the Abuja-Kaduna train service will continue to run on its regular schedule, with additional coaches attached to cater to the increased passenger volume expected during the festive period. Remember, you can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. And that was the Daybreak News. Thank you so much for watching. Good morning.
All right, welcome back. It's still Daybreak Live, reaching you from Dominion Television here in Ibadan. It's now time for us to look at stories making waves or headlines on our front pages of our daily newspapers this morning. And we still say a happy Eid-el-Kabir to our Muslim brothers and sisters. I'll start today with the Guardian newspaper. It says, Federal government to revoke approvals of reclaimed lands along road setbacks. We have more stories there. This story, you can find it on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. How to Reclaim Nigeria's Dream by Federal Capital Territory Minister, that's Nyesom Wike. You find this on news page 38. And other stories there says, time to move. Akwa Ibom governor speaks on defecting from PDP. News page 3 is where you find that story. Benue warns residents as flood displaces 18,592 people. News page 38 is where you find that story. CDS admits insecurity can't be resolved through military force alone. News page 3 is where you find the story on the Guardian newspaper. Midterm review, a test of Nigeria's resilience, Tinubu's promises. This you'll find on the big story pages, page 4 and 5. Also from the Guardian newspaper, Tinubu, Atiku and others urge sacrifice, compassion, unity at Eid Kabir. You find the story on news page 6 of the Guardian newspapers.
All right, away from the Guardian, we head straight to the Nigerian Tribune. Well, there's no big banner there, but then we have this one, a congratulatory message, welcoming His Excellency President Bola Tinubu to commission the 17-day commissioning of the project from the June 10 to July 3rd or 2025. But away from that, we have this: we must control illicit arms to defeat terrorists. That's coming from NSA with a rider as federal government destroys over 3,867 illegal weapons. And away from that, we have, that's the top corner of the Nigerian Tribune. Besides that, we have bad leadership, biggest challenge against Nigeria's development. That's Wike talking there. Says Tinubu capable of building Nigeria of our dreams. And away from that, we have Eid Kabir. Don't lose hope, Tinubu tells Nigerians with the rider as Governor, Rep, Speaker, Atiku, others congratulate Muslims. You can find that on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. You want to read more? Don't you? Why don't you grab a copy of that newspaper?
All right, from Nigerian Tribune, let's see what's happening on the New Telegraph this Friday morning. The major story there says, deployment during polls. Chief of Army Staff backs early voting, says bill overdue. It has the riders, nearly 2 million essential workers currently disenfranchised, says Yadua. All right, you can find the story on page 3 of the New Telegraph. More stories from the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. Akwa Ibom Governor Eno declares for Akwa Ibom Governor Eno declares for APC today as Anambra PDP begs Obi and others to return to party. You find the story on page 28 and 30 of the New Telegraph. Best Bank in Nigeria Award confirms our exceptional customer service. You find the story on page 25. Ex-petroleum minister and diplomat Jibril Aminu dies at 85. The stories are on page 2, 5, and 7. As Tinubu, governors, and others attend funeral in Abuja. Trump announces ban, Trump announces travel ban restrictions on 19 countries. And it has the rider there. He would have lost U.S. poll without me. Who's saying this? Elon Musk. All right, you can read more on that story if it interests you to know what that comment is about from the New Telegraph. Also from the New Telegraph, FBI arrests Nigerian tech queen over multi-million-dollar fraud. You find the story on page 4. Why Nigeria must account for natural resources by MBS. Seeks World Bank's assistance to address NCA challenges. This story is on page 25 of the New Telegraph. More stories from the New Telegraph. Eid al-Kabir, Muslim pilgrims pray at Mount Arafat in Hajj Apex. These stories you can find on pages 2, 4, 7, and 27. Another story here says, no more approvals for illegally created islands in Lagos, says President Tinubu. You find the story on page 2 and page 25. It has some riders there, but it's a bit not too clear. Yes. All right. Any of the stories that interests you, not forgetting also that study links naps with increased risk of with increased risk of death. Check out that story on page 26 of the New Telegraph newspaper this morning.
Well, away from the New Telegraph, we head straight to the Daily Trust. Daily Trust with this big banner, Salah. Travelers spend hours on Abuja-Kaduna Highway. What's the cause of that? Well, we don't know. You can read more on that. Well, we have Idio Ada, Tinubu, Atiku, Governor, preach peace. And that's page 27 of the Daily Trust. And we have how 300 Nigerians died in 6 days. You can read more on that. You want to read more on that, you pick Daily Trust. And we have Army Chief makes case for early voting for military personnel. And below that, we have Life and Times of Professor Jibril Aminu. Get a copy of Daily Trust to read more.
All right, from Daily Trust, I'll go to the Blueprint newspaper. Nothing so much there. Still talking about Eid and Eid al-Kabir. Tough days over. We are into new era of renewed hope, says President Bola Tinubu, and has the riders, Akpabio, Abbas, and governors urge patience and resilience. You can find this from the Blueprint newspaper, as well as the congratulatory message for from the Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike to the President for projects that are going to be commissioned from the 10th of June to July 3rd, 2025. Okay. Okay, we'll still have this from leadership. It's still the congratulatory message, and of course the story about Tinubu and Northern governors mourn as Professor Jibril Aminu dies at 85.
Well, away from that, out straight to the Leadership Friday. From the top of the Leadership Friday, we have Tinubu, Northern governors mourn as Professor Jibril Aminu dies at 85. And of course, we still have this congratulatory messages or message from the from FCT Minister, that's Wike too, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for the commissioning that will take place from June 10 to the 3rd of July 2025. And that's from Leadership Friday this morning.
All right, we'll head over to Business Day quickly. Business Day says Tinubu's reforms draw global cheer, but poverty widens. And it has a rider, toughest days now behind us, says President Tinubu. Also from Business Day newspaper, teachers stuck in analog mode hinder digital education drive. Oil prices slide threatens bumper shareholder payout. This story is on page 34 of the Business Day newspaper. And another story here says Naira gains as foreign reserves close week at $38.32 billion. You can find the story on page 35 of the Business Day newspaper. I think that'll be all.
Well, I still have one here.
You do? Okay.
I have this day. And this day is coming with Tinubu. Nigeria has secured over $2.2 billion for health sector reforms. That's Mr. President talking about that. And we have this one, just beneath it, we have in Salute message, President tells Nigerians not to lose hope, says toughest days over. Well, that's a hope from Mr. President to us. And we have this big picture as well. I mean, a congratulatory message concerning the project that Mr. President will commission from June 10 to July 3rd, 2025. That's all we can find from this day, this morning. Away from that, I mean, well, President is actually telling us a truth, saying that we should be hopeful. Remember, yes. He came with the renewed hope agenda. So now in everything Mr. President is saying, Mr. President will always tell us that, okay, we should not lose hope. I think I believe in his word.
You do? Yes, we shouldn't, anyhow, we shouldn't really lose hope. When there's life, there is hope. So it's telling us that the tough days are over. We're looking forward to better days by his grace. Okay, I think we'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, Daybreak Live continues. And don't forget, it's still the Daybreak Live Extra, and we say thank God it's Friday.
morning and welcome to another enlightening edition of Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, where faith meets culture and truth meets clarity. Today, as Muslims across the globe gather in celebration of Eid al-Kabir, we pause to reflect on one of the most symbolic rituals of this sacred festival, the slaughtering of the ram. It is more than just a feast. It is a timeless story of faith, submission, sacrifice, and divine mercy. So what makes this act so significant? Why do millions commemorate Prophet Ibrahim's obedience in this way? And how does the ritual connect to the deeper values of Islam? Stay with us as we explore the significance of ram slaughtering on Eid al-Kabir right here on Daybreak Live. Now, Eid al-Kabir, also known as the Festival of Sacrifice, is one of Islam's most sacred observances. At its heart is a powerful story of Ibrahim, known as Abraham by Christians, a man who was willing to sacrifice his son in obedience to God's command, only to have God replace the son with a ram at the last moment. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. This is The Big Story on Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, your channel of choice, where inspiration meets entertainment. This morning, I won't be doing the explanation myself, but of course I have Professor Taufik Abdulaziz in the studio with me. Of course, he will be joining us via phone call. He's the Chief Imam of Abuja Central Mosque. Good morning to you, Prof.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on this show this morning.
Good having me.
All right, how's Abuja this morning, sir?
Well, dry as usual. It was wet yesterday, but dry this morning.
Wow. And how's...
Dry in terms of everything, no money, nothing.
And how's Salah, sir?
Well, alhamdulillah, we are preparing for it now.
All right, on behalf of the entire crew, Dominion Television and the management, we wish you Barakah de Salah.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, let's go straight to the topic of the day, which is the significance of slaughtering of the ram on a day like this, Eid al-Kabir. Then, what is the origin of the practice of ram slaughtering on Eid al-Kabir?
Yeah, thank you. You just said it. I heard you when you were saying it was Abraham's practice. There's this narrative that he promised or vowed that if Allah gave him a child, he was going to sacrifice the child. It's a narrative, the origin of which is quite cloudy. However, what we know that is certain in the Quran is that he suffered infertility for decades. And Allah eventually gave him a child whose name is Ismail. When Ismail grew up, Allah now made him to have a dream that he was slaughtering the child. So he had a dialogue with the child, consulted with the child, and that's quite significant, that you cannot take a decision on your children without consulting them. The child was old enough to be consulted, so the father consulted the child that this is the dream I have. They were both prophets, so they knew the implication of prophetic dreams, and the child understood. He said, if Alma Tumor, do what you are commanded to do. He understood the dream to mean Allah commanded him to slaughter his son. So the son said, do what your father, your God has ordered you to do. You will find me as a sabir, a patient person. So we saw patience there, we saw consultation, we saw family management there, and he went ahead to attempt to slaughter him. As he tried to slaughter him, Allah replaced the child with a ram, and that is what we celebrate every year. Don't forget, Islam is all about Abraham. It is Millata Abikum Ibrahim. It is the part, the ideological part of your father, Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is our father, and interestingly, it is also the father of the Jews and the Christians. What is very interesting is that we approach this father differently. So he slaughtered the ram, and we slaughter since then till tomorrow. We slaughter ram to commemorate this very significant event. It teaches us family management, patience, consultation, keeping of promise, and being patient when you have problems and not losing hope, because Ibrahim did not lose hope. He did not give up. That it was taking too long. So Allah rewarded his patience with a good child who was also replaced with a ram, and their lives, everything about them became everything about Islam. The Hujjaj will do the Tawaf of the Kaaba, which was built by Abraham and Ismail, his son. They will do Sayu, which was done by Ismail, his son, and his wife, Hajara. And we are slaughtering, which was what he did, in replacement for his son. If you have more specific questions, I can take it.
All right. Now, let me ask you this, because people ask this question often, that why is it a ram? And then do Muslims have the liberty to also use other animals, a cow, for example, a camel, instead of a ram? Do they have that liberty?
Yeah, they do. For example, I'm going to share a cow because I cannot afford a ram. A ram that will be slaughterable will go for 0.5 million at least, and then if it is quite reasonable in size, it will go for 1.2 million. I cannot afford that, but I've shared a cow. I'm taking a third of a cow. 7 people can share a cow, and so on. We can also slaughter camel. However, the principle of Islam is the average. كَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We have created you and made you a justly balanced nation. At that time, the most handy, the most available, the most accessible was a ram or sheep. So if Allah had given him a bigger animal, it would have been cumbersome, it would have been unaffordable by an average Muslim. So at that time, it was the ram or sheep that was quite reasonably affordable and accessible, and So we are killing ram, concentrating on it because that was the exact animal that Allah used. And so we have this principle of barakah, blessing. We believe that it is more blessed, it has more blessing to slaughter a ram than to slaughter a cow or a camel. However, that does not mean that you don't get good reward for slaughtering bigger animals. It only means that, although unfortunately, because of the blessing of the ram is now more expensive than cows and camels in terms of single purchase. If you buy a ram, you could get a cow that will give you 3 times the size of a ram for the cost of a big ram. So it is the blessing. It is a blessing. We only take what actually happened, but we are allowed to slaughter even goats. We are allowed to slaughter goats, which is smaller.
All right.
We are allowed to slaughter cows and camels, which are bigger.
Okay. All right. Very quickly, let me ask you this. You see some people, when they after slaughtering their ram, they tend to share. Is there a modality in place, according to the religion, Islam, that there is a way these cow, camel, or even ram, as the case may be, can be shared?
There is a formula in the Quran. It is to be divided into 3. The one that slaughters will take 1, and he will give 1/3 So those who are poor, who cannot afford, they must also be happy. It is the responsibility of the rich to serve the poor during this period. So the third one is for anybody that asks, be he a Christian, Muslim, Jew, if you come to me, or you can't come to me in Abuja today, whoever comes to a Muslim today to ask for the meat, he should be given. So the Muslim who slaughter must reserve 1/3 for those who will ask. If bring my salary, you must take part of the 1/3 and take to office on Tuesday, because it is the law, it is the command. Those who ask, those who do not ask, but those who are poor, who cannot afford, you should also be happy. You give them 1/3. You take 1/3. You give 1/3 to those who ask. That's the rule.
Okay, now there are some people which I have seen before, where before Salah comes, before the festival itself, Eid al-Kabir, maybe a week or days to Eid al-Kabir, you see them on fields. They bring their ram to the field, and then they start a competition, and then you realize that they are using these rams to actually do a form of competition. Is it in the Holy Book that this is allowed, or this is just a thinking of some people?
This is a wicked practice. You don't do competition of any sort in Islam, especially this knocking of on and knocking of on competition. If I got you right, that is haram. It's haram. It is wickedness, because the rams must not be wounded. And
the exercise, I mean the competition. So what happens to the ram?
You kill it to eat. It is not a sacrifice. It's not acceptable to God, because you have deliberately wounded it. The ram that must be slaughtered must be wholesome and without blemish. It must not have any blemish. So it is wrong to slaughter it after it has been wounded, because wounding it, making it to get wounded, disqualifies it from being accepted. Allah Almighty does not accept defective sacrifice. He only accepts what you also will appreciate. So that's how far I know.
Now, as a Muslim, obligated to perform the sacrifice, and are there exceptions?
No exception, except those who cannot afford. A man, woman, even a child, whoever can afford. For example, a mature child, 15, 16, for the girl from 12, from 13, for the boy from 15, from 16. Now, if he has a herd of cattle and he has rams in the herd, he can take one. In those days when they were more reasonable than us, when they were more intelligent than us, they were raising animals. Before colonization, when everybody goes to school and then everybody abandons farming and everybody start getting pittance as salary. In those days, when our people, our parents were more intelligent, more knowledgeable than us, they were raising these animals. So a 16-year-old child can take one of his rams and slaughter, or goat, because he's matured enough to worship Allah, to get reward and to get punishment. So anybody that has reached maturity, that can worship Allah and whose worship will be accepted by Allah, is under obligation if he or she can afford it. If he or she can afford it, we call it istita'a. So if you have the istita'a, you have the affordability, you have the capacity, you are not exempted. It's only those who cannot afford it, and they must not struggle to afford it by all means. They are not encouraged to even borrow, except if the money they are going to borrow is sure. I mean, the source of repayment is sure. So nobody is exempted except those who cannot afford it.
Okay, now, aside from being wounded, what are the other Islamic rules and conditions for a valid sacrificial animal?
Other conditions as well?
I mean, aside from being wounded, like you said, if the ram is wounded, you cannot actually, you know, kill such ram or slaughter such ram on a day like this. But then, aside from being wounded, are there other rules for qualification for an animal that you know Muslims should look out for?
The animal that will be slaughtered must not be defective. It must not have one eye. It must not have broken arm, broken leg, cut ear. It must be wholesome. That's just what I know for now. It must be of age. It must not be less than 1 year for the goat, not less than 2 years for the cow, not less than 5 years for the camel, so that it will be sizable, so that it will go round. Just so that it will go round.
Now, let's talk about people who are qualified to actually slaughter ram on a day like this. Okay. Now, can the slaughtering be done on behalf of another person? Let's say someone is not in Nigeria, says, okay, buy this and do that on my behalf.
Yes, of course. Somebody can slaughter on behalf of another. You can even slaughter on behalf of your late parents. Yes, you can slaughter even on behalf of your late parents. You said, this is sadaqah for my parents. It is in your mind. You express the intention that this one is for this person who paid for it. So you are slaughtering in his name, and the reward entirely goes to him.
Okay.
You share from the reward anyway, but the whole reward of slaughtering goes to him. You only have a share for assisting somebody to do good.
All right. There are people who actually can afford to slaughter rams on a day like this, but they will prefer to go back to their family houses. So what difference does it make?
Oh, okay, they cannot afford, or they can afford.
They can actually afford it. They can do that on their own, but they will prefer to go back to their family houses to
going back to their family house, does it mean they will now not afford it, or they will now not?
They will still do it, but instead of doing it at their homes, they will go back to their family houses to perform the ram slaughtering.
But they will still slaughter the ram.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, it's good. I don't see anything wrong in it, although I have not read it anywhere that it is better to go to the family house. I think that is the origin of Ileya. That is, it is time to go home.
To go back home.
So you go home. I wish I could, honestly, I wish I could, so that you meet with your loved ones, people you have not seen for a long time, and everybody is happy. You share. It is good. It is good to go home, although it is more expensive. What Allah wants is the little you can do to make yourself happy and get maximum reward. What people do is that they want to expand their reward. I don't see anything wrong in it. If you spend more to go home, you get more reward. More people will love to see you, and everybody will be happy together. So there is nothing wrong in it.
Now, let's talk about consistency. Most Muslims that I know, once they are qualified, they are always afraid of not being able to perform ram slaughtering the next year. So is there a Quranic verse that actually says you have to be consistent, that it's a no?
Something like Bema Shele.
Yes, that's it.
There is nothing like that. It has happened to me before. There was a year I couldn't just slaughter. I mean, more than 1 year. I started slaughtering long ago, and there was this period, it was harsh like this, so we couldn't slaughter. So what did we do? We just stayed at home, and luckily for us, some people slaughtered and gave us. There is nothing like Obe Obodo Shele. For example, this year, I had made up my mind until yesterday that there was no way I could have slaughtered. So what I did was to have a share, a third of a cow. But yesterday, I won't tell you who did it. Somebody just sent a small ram to me, and I'm slaughtering this morning, inshallah. So if you cannot, it's just like any other act of worship that is not compulsory. It is not compulsory. Even Hajj that is compulsory, it is compulsory only if you can afford it, and it is once. If you cannot afford it after once, it's okay. After doing it once, this sacrifice too, if you can afford it and you have been able to do it once, if you are not able to do it again, it is not, there is no sin. You have not committed any sin. You have not infringed anything. You have not violated any rules. So you just take it as, okay, this is the situation now.
All right.
You don't have to force yourself.
Okay. Let me quickly say this. Nigerians and people around the world are currently in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So what's the linkage between Eid al-Kabir and the visit to Saudi Arabia at a time like this?
Okay, very good. First, it is not Eid al-Kabir, it is Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is what our fathers could not pronounce. They now call it Ileya. Eid al-Adha, the festival of slaughtering, the sacrifice. So we call it Eid al-Kabir today because we believe this is a bigger Eid, bigger Salah. So you call it Eid al-Kabir, the big Salah. So let's, having said that, there is connection with Saudi Arabia in three perspectives, at least three perspectives. Number one, as humanity, our parents, Adam and Hawa, Christians call her Eve, when they came to this world, they met on Arafah, on that mountain, Mount Arafah, and all the children of Adam were called by Abraham to come and perform this Hajj. Hajj is Arafah. So what we are commemorating is that we are meeting at the plain of Arafah where our parents met, and we will be in white to signify preparation to die at any time and to commemorate the day of judgment when we will be in white like this and we will be standing. It is a day of standing, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of standing. So that is the first connection. The second connection is that it was at that point that Abraham, the father of faith, called humanity for Hajj. And anybody, whether Muslim or not, that is able to perform Hajj will have answered the call of his or her father Abraham, alayhi salatu wasalam. Thirdly, the first house that was built for Adam and Hawa was that Kaaba. It is in Mecca. So this is the center of the universe, even geographically, scientifically. Even that Kaaba is the magnetic point that connects the earth and stabilizes the earth. That is why the sun probably doesn't stay on top of it. It has all kinds of positive connection with the existence and survival of planet Earth. So Allah chose that house to be the first house for mankind, and it is there in the Quran. So the Tufan, the deluge that flooded and took away the world during Noah's time, destroyed that house too. So Abraham was the person that was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reconstruct that house. And he was asked to reconstruct لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. For those who will be circumambulating the house, they will be doing tawaf, those who will be doing ruku, those who will be praying and doing sujood in that house. So it is the house of Allah, the most sacred house of Allah, and we have to go there. We also face that house while praying 5 times a day. We face the place so that we will remember Abraham, so that we will remember our parents, so that we will remember our connection, so that we will remember our genesis, we will remember ourselves, and we will long to unite with our people. You can see that art is white, brown, black, and so on, will be the same. No differential in culture. Every pilgrim will wear the wrapper, male will wear wrapper and put something on top. No cap, no culture, no furniture, no embellishment, no nothing to distinguish you. Come and see Ujah today. Presidents, rich people, everybody will be like any other person. That is to implant the principle of equality, the principle of humility, the principle of universality of Islam in us. So we are connected in every sense. Muslims are connected to Makkah. It is our origin as human beings, and it is our origin as Muslims. I've said it before. Islam is the ideological path of Abraham. Abraham reconstructed the house. Abraham took part of his family to that place. And when he left, after praying, Allah made the child to become thirsty. The mother was struggling, going from Safa and Marwa running, and Allah brought out Zamzam, that spring. So Allah used his miracle, to attract everybody there. So if you believe in Allah and you believe and follow Abraham, you must go and commemorate. So every Muslim wants to go there. And then, like I said, the sign is to commemorate the struggle of Hajara, the mother of Ismail. And the patience was rewarded with that wonderful, spiritual, and miraculous water. There is no stream, there is no river like Zamzam. Even in terms of its scientific and healing content. When I was in the Pilgrim Welfare Board, I've met a Christian woman who performed Hajj from Nigeria, and I've met some pastors who performed Hajj and took that water. And they told me pointedly that it belongs to all of us, and I agree with them. And they were going to bring this water back to Nigeria, call it miracle water, do their things with it. Their clients will not know that they took their problems to Kaaba to solve. One of the pastors told me, he said, doctor, I was doctor then. He said, doctor, I know you very well, and I'm sure you understand. I understood. I blend with my client. All my prayers over him were not answered. So I brought it to Allah. Said, but if you believe in Allah, why don't you become a Muslim? He laughed and said what I would not say on air. So these are things. Anybody that has spiritual insight knows that place, knows that Makkah is a special gift to humanity, to mankind. It is not just for Muslims. It is for everybody, Jews, Christians. And that is why a lot of things are happening and around that place, so that those things would becloud our sense of perception and judgment about Islam, the Muslims, and Saudi Arabia.
To be taken away from a day like this, let's talk about when Muslims return from Eid this morning. Now, the next thing is to slaughter the ram.
Yes.
Who is meant to do it? The imam in the community or the person who actually bought the ram by himself?
is the person that bought the ram by himself. However, it is a common practice in the Southwest that you hire people and pay them. But it's just service. It's just an economic enterprise. The priest also wants to eat and enjoy a little of the wealth of the people. Yeah, it's just there is nothing. It's harmless.
Okay. All right. When you are done sharing and you still have some, for how long can you keep what remains in your home before it becomes something that is against what's in the Holy Quran?
Okay. 1/3 is your own, and what you do with it is entirely your own discretion. It's at your own discretion. Sometimes if there are circumstances that will make you to have to keep it, you can keep it for as long as you wish. But I want to observe one thing that is not strictly part of the religion. It is that people will keep it in order to eat it on the 10th of Muharram, that is next Islamic month. They want to use it to enjoy the new year and then to celebrate the 10th of Muharram, the day when all prayers are answered, when a lot of historical events took place, that the miraculous life of the Muslims. But it is not bound by any rule. No law says anything about it. It is your own, and you can dispense and dispose with it using your own discretion.
Are there any cultural beliefs that has been mixed with religious significance of a day like this that people now see as being in the Holy Quran, whereas they are just cultural beliefs?
Yeah, there are many, like salting the meat and keeping it till, like I just said it, keeping it till 10th of Muharram is just a cultural belief. And thinking that there are things you do, Judioba and so on, they are not part of the Eid. But whatever you do today, tomorrow, and Sunday, to be happy and to make other people happy, if there is no sin committed, it's all right. It's all right. You can put your own culture there. It is called Uf in Sharia. It is harmless. It's harmless. A lot of things like Ojudoba is cultural. Is not really part of the religion. And that is why non-Muslims also attend.
Okay. Is there a way that Muslims will be able to differentiate between cultural beliefs and then what's in the Quran so that they will know the difference, especially at a time like this?
I'm not sure I got you. I'm not sure I got you right.
Okay. I'm just asking, are there ways that a Muslim will know the difference between cultural beliefs that have been mixed with the religious ethics? Yes.
Yeah, that is syncretism. You really need to know three things to be able to differentiate. One, you know Islam. Two, you know the culture. And three, you know the environment. If you live in the north, for example, you would think Doba is part of the Eid, but it is not. Doba is culture, is their own culture. It is not necessarily Islamic. If you live in Arab world, there is this sword play, entertainment, and so on. They are not strictly part of Islam. They're just their own cultures. So you need to know Islam itself to be able to distinguish it with the syncretic practice. There's a lot of syncretism, mixing cultures and things with Islam. It happens a lot, like our dressing. Wearing turban, wearing al-khimar, wearing a lot of things that are necessarily not Islam. There are particular caps that Muslims wear in the Southwest, and they think they are doing sunnah. That it doesn't have anything to do with Islam, but it has been identified with Islam. So a cleric will naturally want to wear it and put turban in order to look according to specification. Now, okay, this is the Muslim look. I call it costumization. To put costume. And sometimes they dramatize it. Not, well, like I said, they are quite harmless.
Okay. Lastly on the show this morning, what are the lessons a Muslim should take away from Eid al-Kabir?
One, to keep promises, because according to the narrative, prevailing narrative, Abraham promised and he kept his promise. 2, to be patient. Abraham alayhi salam was patient. He was looking for the fruit of the womb for a long time. He didn't give up. He didn't lose hope. So, and Allah answered him at old age. He gave him another child, Isaac, and he gave him a grandchild, Yaqub, who is also known as Israel. So Abraham was given long life, to compensate him for his long suffering. So you must be patient. Number 3 is to take Abraham as your model in everything. He was sincere, he was devoted, he consulted with his family, he suffered, but he eventually gained personally and bequeathed a lot of benefit to Muslims from them. For example, what took Hajar and Ismail to Mecca from Palestine or Iraq was family feud. The first wife had infertility, then she suggested the girl for marriage, but Abraham married the girl. The girl became pregnant, and the normal conflict started. So in polygamy or polygynous family, conflicts are natural and they are normal. So he had his own share of this conflict. However, after the conflict, he relocated part of his family, and then everything that happened became part of the religion since then. So when you suffer any deprivation in Islam and you are patient and you are sincere, it becomes benefit for you and for future generations.
Thank you, Professor.
The Islam, everything became benefit to us because of the patience of Abraham.
Thank you, Professor Taufeeq Abdulaziz, for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good to have you on the show. All right, Professor Taufeeq Abdulaziz is the Chief Imam, Abuja Central Mosque.
Of Abuja.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Welcome.
All right. And that brings us to the end of today's special edition of Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television. I'm sure it was quite insightful, and you can pick 1 or 2 lessons from there, especially as a Muslim. As the fragrance of roasted meat fills the air and joyful prayers echo across communities, may we never forget the spiritual depth behind the celebration, a story of faith, sacrifice, and divine mercy. To all our Muslim viewers, we say Barka de Salah. May your homes be filled with peace, joy, and the blessings of Allah. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and keep the spirit of sacrifice alive in all you do. This is Daybreak Live Extra. Happy Eid al-Kabir.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Sport on your channel of choice, Dominion Television. I am Abe Paul Toluwanimi, and let me greet the Muslim faithful, Baraka de Salah. Now, moving away from that, we have major stories making the rounds in the world of sport, and we're going to be starting off with the camp of the Super Eagles, where they have a friendly match against Russia right there in Luzhniki Stadium. The game is going to take place from 6 p.m. and today by 6 p.m. between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Russia. Let me let you know that the players in camp, we have Maduka Okoye, we have Amas Obasoge, we have William Strauss-Ekong, we have Sami Ajayi, we have Ugo Ogbu, we have Benjamin Frederick, we have Bright Osai Samuel, we have Isaac Xavier, we have Fisayo Adele Bashiru, we have Moses Simon, we have Frank Oyeka, we have Christensen Uche, we have Raphael Onyeka, we have Papa Mustafa, we have Sikru Alimi, we have Ismail Sadiq, we have Tolu Arokodare, we have Victor Boniface, we have Bruno Oyemachi, and we have Olusegun Olakunle. Those are the players who are going to take part, in Russia at the friendly game by 6 p.m. Moving away from that, also still in the local scene, we got the report today that the Gateway United game returned to Abe Okuta for the final home game. The Gateway United will make a long-awaited return to their home ground, the MKO Abiola Stadium Arena in Kuto, Abe Okuta, this Saturday, where they will host Osun United on match day 21 of the 2024-2025 NLL League. The final home fixture of the campaign, it will be the club's first appearance at the venue in over a year since their last outing there on the 13th of April 2024, which ended in a goalless draw against Ikorodu City. Moving away from that, still in the local scene, we are heading straight to basketball. The playoff happening right there in Pretoria, South Africa, from the 6th of June till the 14th of June 2025, where we are going to have big games taking place. Cross Star, the Cape Verde side, are going to face Fuster Rapat, Morocco, right there from 4 p.m. Today. Also, Al Alib SC of Libya are going to take on Al Ittihad of Egypt today also by 7 p.m. Also tomorrow we're going to have Pretoria Luda, the Angola side against Rwanda APR right there by 4 p.m. on Saturday. Also, the U.S. Monster against right there in Tunisia are going to face our very own the Rivers Upas of Nigeria by 7 p.m. So our gaze are going to be fixed on the game between the U.S. Monster of Tunisia against our very own the Rivers Upas. Also, we have the images are showing on the screen right now is where we have representative of the Rivers Upas holding onto the jersey right there, and showing that they're going to take on the Tunisian side right there on Saturday by 7 p.m. Moving away from the local scene, still in the world of basketball, let me let you know that the final game is on already, and the tension is eating up. Where we have the Indiana Pacers, they took on OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunders, in the early hours of this morning. Yes, Tyrese Haliburton, post a 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 3-pointers. Right there, the game ended 111 to 110, just 1 point separating this side, and this man is eating the clutch time right there in the world of basketball. Right now, the series, is in favor of the Pacers. They lead the series 1-0. Right there in the world of basketball. Moving away from that, we're heading straight down to the world of tennis, where it's happening, big time. But before that, looking at the top charts right there, like I said, OKC, Anil, and the Pacers, and 1-0. This was the chart, before the final. Moving away from the world of basketball, we're heading straight down to the world of tennis, where Cody Coco Gauff, posted, a victory to Boysen, the French athlete right there, 6-1, 6-2, right there to pick up the victory and head straight to the Roland Garros final right there in Paris, happening. And also Sabalenka, world number 1, defeated world number 5 Swiatek right there, 7-6, 4-6, 6-0 right there to pick up the victory right there. So Sabalenka is going to face, Cody Coco Gauff right there in the Roland Garros final game happening right there in Paris. It's going to be a big one. World number 1 against world number 2 to see who's going to pick up, that championship happening right there in Roland Garros, Paris. Moving away from that, also, the men's side, we have the Roland Garros semi-final where Jannik Sinner, world number 1, also is going to take off Novak Djokovic. Also, the world number 6 is going to happen also in Roland Garros today. And we have Lorenzo Musetti also against Carlos Alcaraz. That's going to be world number 8 against world number 2 today. So we have so much to look forward to in the world of tennis. So make sure you're always connected, to get the update right here on your channel of choice, Dominion Television. Moving away from that, more stories are still coming up. Yesterday was a fantastic game between Spain and France. And, it's been a back and forth between Kylian Mbappe and Lamine Yamal. If you look at the story, right there from La Liga, Spain defeated France 2-1 earlier, in this season, in the international games. Also, Madrid against Barcelona 4-0. Barcelona against Madrid also 4-3. The Super Cup final, Barca won that trophy. Also, the Copa del Rey final, Barca also clinching on that trophy. But right now, yesterday, the game ended 5-4 in favor of Spain. So it was a major battle, between Spain and France. Lamine Yamal also getting on the score sheet. Nico Williams also getting a goal. Merino of Arsenal also getting on the score sheet right there. Kylian Mbappe, Ryan Cherki, Kolo Muani, yes, also getting on the score sheet right there. And let me let you know that Lamine Yamal picked up, the match of the game award right there yesterday. So it's going to be a major final between France. It's going to be a major final, between Portugal and Spain right there, happening right there in Munich at the Allianz Arena. Now, before that, let me let you know that Germany won 2-1. Cristiano Ronaldo, bagging, a goal right there in that game. Also, Spain against France, 5-4. And this is the final game between Portugal and Spain, and also Germany and France will play the third place match. Moving away from that quickly, we have all the major stories making around in the world of sport this morning. And let me let you know that Lamine Yamal was named the under-23 player of the season right here in the Spanish La Liga. That's the update. The man is getting the goals right here, for FC Barcelona, 9 goals and 13 assists, this season for FC Barcelona. Moving away from Lamine Yamal's story, also let me let you know that Uzbekistan also qualified for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Likewise, Jordan also, picking up a qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Moving away from that, more stories still popping up in the world of transfer this morning. And let me let you know that Ryan Aït-Nouri of Wolverhampton Wanderers switched side to Manchester City right there at 40 million euros. That's the update we're getting in the world of transfer this morning. That Ryan Aït-Nouri also, is going to play for Manchester City. Remember, Manchester City has picked up Tijani Reinders, from AC Milan, and also they are looking at picking up, more players, right there. But Ryan Aït-Nouri also is now a player for Manchester City. Moving away from that, let me let you know that Delap of Chelsea, the man from Ipswich, is going to be putting on the number 9 jersey right there for Chelsea come next season. Remember, he signed from Ipswich to Chelsea, and it's going to be putting on the number 9 jersey. Also, an upgrade in the team right there for Chelsea is Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer also is going to be putting on the number 10 jersey right there for Chelsea. That's the update in the world of sport this beautiful morning. But before I go, let me let you know that Raheem Sterling is officially back at Chelsea. He left, Chelsea